Buenas tardes para todas las personas que están en este momento conectados a través de la página web de Futuro. Nos alegra bastante que estén en este evento, en esta sesión virtual con la Universidad de Melbourne y que hayan aceptado la invitación para ser parte de esta, que es la Semana de Australia. No sé si han visto en nuestras redes sociales, en nuestra página web, en los eventos que hemos realizado, que estamos haciendo como un ciclo de semanas por países y esta es la semana dedicada a Australia. Para cerrar con los eventos del día de hoy está la Universidad de Melbourne, está específicamente con nosotros Zoe, que se va a presentar en un momento, y Zoe es parte de la universidad y pues ella como que es una de las representantes con las que ustedes seguramente van a tener contacto. La universidad, por supuesto, tiene un convenio con el Futuro, en el cual, dependiendo de si es un programa investigativo o un programa profesionalizante, tendrá un descuento totalmente diferente. Entonces, sin nada más, para poder empezar, Zoe, thank you so much for your time. I know that you're like starting your day in this moment. But yes, again, thank you for doing this for our students, to the persons in Colombia that are interested in the University of Melbourne. And if you want, you can start in this moment.
Wonderful. Jaika. Buenas tardes. Yes, my name is Zoe, and I'm absolutely very honored to be speaking to you all live from Melbourne, and it is early in the morning. So good evening to everyone in Colombia. I was privileged enough to be visiting you in person about 2 weeks ago. You have a beautiful country, and we definitely share that in common. So Wominjeka to Australia's leading university. Wominjeka is in fact the language of our First Nations, our Aboriginal Indigenous people, and it means welcome in Wurundjeri language. So welcome, and I hope that I can give you a taste of what it's like to study and live in Australia and Melbourne and at the University of Melbourne. I'm wondering how many of you out there have actually visited Australia. And when I was actually in Medellin and Bogota not so long ago, not many people had visited us. But I feel like I can guess what I think you might think about Australia. Thinking of things like our incredible kangaroos. Maybe these little cute little creatures, koalas, may also come top of mind. The outback. This is something a lot of people think about when they think about Australia. Uluru, Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, of course. Sharks. The Hemsworth brothers, maybe the Opera House. But it could actually surprise you. I'm going to transport you now to Melbourne. Melbourne is one of the world's most livable cities, and this is where our university is situated, right in the heart of Melbourne. And very different from those images that a lot of people have in their minds, Melbourne actually is home to the most cafes and restaurants per person than any other city in the entire world. As you can see, it's very diverse, it's very cosmopolitan. These are some of our famous laneways and street art. A real wonderful international flavor with the kinds of cafes and restaurants. We have students that come and study with us from over 130 different countries. Now we're going to stop and pause on Rafael Nadal. It's not just food and restaurants and music, but we also are home to the Australian Open tennis. So for those of you that want to go and get some sporting fix, you can go and see the Australian Open tennis. This is the AFL Grand Final. So Melbourne is also known as one of the world's finest sporting destinations. This, of course, is the Australian Grand Prix. So for those that like Formula One, so it's very different from those images that people have of the outback and sharks and spiders and things like that. We even have the Rip Curl Pro surfing contest, and it's actually not far from where I am today. Fashion Week. So Melbourne is a city that also is home to lots of great independent designers, musicians, artists. And this, in fact, is actually the city of Melbourne. And lining this the trees and the streets there is actually the wonderful University of Melbourne campus. We are very, very lucky because we are located with a traditional campus, the kind of campus that you dream of, right in the heart of the city. So you can actually see the bay in the background, the Port Phillip Bay, but where all of those large buildings are, that's the heart of the city of Melbourne. So that is where all of the major banks are, the major retailers, the big five. So you'll have KPMG, Ernst and Young, and surrounding the university is essentially the biotech and medtech hub of the Southern Hemisphere. So there's the major hospitals like the Royal Women's, the Royal Melbourne, the Royal Children's, and a specialist cancer treatment hospital. There are also medtech companies, some of the world's finest medical research companies, all surrounding the campus that we're on. So we're very, very lucky to have such a beautiful campus right in the heart of the city. And we're lucky to have that because we're Australia's second oldest university. And so when you get to look at us more, there'll be things that look quite familiar with universities like Oxford or Cambridge, because these were some of the academics who actually started our university. So we've been around for over 160 years. We've been thinking big, we've been ambitious, but we're not ready to stop yet. So this is in fact where we're located in Australia, in Victoria, and you can see us right there. And I want to make a big point. When everyone thinks about Australia, I get a lot of questions about crocodiles and snakes and sharks and spiders. They are nowhere near the university. So you are not going to encounter these kinds of creatures unless you go to the zoo, unless you go for a visit to the Northern Territory or Queensland. But these are things best found in the zoo or out in the ocean, but definitely not on campus at the University of Melbourne. So we're very, very lucky. So this is a little bit of a tour around our campus. And as you can see, we're very, very lucky. It's the kind of campus that you can enjoy spending your days. And even from this photo, you can see how it's very similar to some of those world famous universities like Oxford and Cambridge. So we've got some really beautiful buildings. People actually come when they're on holidays just to look at our campus. But it's not just the beautiful old historic buildings that we have. We're also really ultra modern. So, depending upon whether you want to study engineering or design or science or the arts and music, we make sure that you have purpose built, fit for purpose spaces. So, what you're seeing on your screens right now is actually Melbourne School of Design, and they have various different studio spaces. Kinds of spaces, whether you're doing graphic design, multimedia type work, or whether you're looking at architecture or urban planning, or you might even be doing performance design. You'll find different kinds of spaces and studios custom built and designed. Fun fact on this incredible space, we are very much into sustainability and climate change action at the University of Melbourne. This particular building was the first building in the Southern Hemisphere with a 6-star rating for energy and sustainability. So at the time, this was quite groundbreaking, but that's the kind of things that we're doing. We may have a long history, but we're still trying to make sure that we're leading what's happening. We're leading in thought, we're leading in our actions, and we're making sure that our students have spaces that are going to be able to give them the best to learn the skills that they need, but also to feel quite inspired when they're in their classrooms. So as you can see, some more of those contemporary buildings, these are the sorts of spaces that you can meet with your classmates, that you can study. This is actually the postgraduate space just for students in the Graduate School of Arts and Humanities. So if you were doing things like global media communications, development studies, even languages, international relations, this is a special space just for you. And there's all sorts of spaces on campus, particularly for our graduate students, so that they can have somewhere quiet to work and then meet and chat and discuss. So that's one of my favorite spaces on campus. These are the other kinds of lecture theatres and spaces. So a lot of people think just because we have a beautiful old looking campus, we do make sure that things are up to date and cutting edge for you. So, we don't just have a beautiful campus in one of the world's most livable cities. In fact, Melbourne was the world's most livable city 7 years running until recently, where we're number 2. Vienna in Austria has just taken over from us, but we're going to make sure we get that back. But we are very, very lucky that we are ranked number 1 in Australia, number 32 in the world, and we essentially have a really good mix of students on campus. About 50% of our students are graduate students doing both coursework programs, so coursework masters, but also research programs, so masters of research and also doctoral and postdoctoral programs. We have over 100 research centers and institutes, so you are going to be really well connected to where the leading research is happening. We are part of Australia's Group of 8. So the Group of 8 are research intensive universities in Australia who have the bulk of the research funding. And we partner with institutions all over the world because we believe in thinking big. But it's definitely a wonderful university to study at. Really proud to also say, while research and excellent learning and teaching is really important, and we're really proud of our rankings, we're also really proud to be number 6 in the world for global employability. And this particular statistic and ranking comes from leaders at executive level, so CEOs, vice presidents, those kinds of roles in many different sectors, from health to consulting to the finance and banking to insurance to the arts, media, ranking where they prefer their students to come from. So we're super proud. We have alumni all over the world. And just a fortnight ago, I had an alumni catch up with students from all over Colombia in Bogota, and they're doing incredible, wonderful things and making a big impact in Colombia and the broader world, but having really exciting careers. So you can study a lot of different areas at the University of Melbourne. So we are a comprehensive university, and you can do everything, as you can see in those rankings, everything from biological sciences to economics and econometrics, education, law. Our law school is in fact number 6 in the entire world. Our medical school is actually number 9 in the entire world. So we're really, really proud of the incredible things that our academic and research colleagues are doing. You can see here again just a bit more of the breadth of the areas of study. So we very much, within engineering, there are a broad field of areas, anything from mechatronics due to energy systems, to mechanical engineering, to chemical engineering. So lots of different opportunities, civil engineering. Health, we've got programs such as medicine right through to specialist programs for people once they've been trained. The LLM is very popular in law with students from Colombia. And in the faculties of science, there's a number of fantastic programs that you can actually make an impact on reducing problems due to climate change. So things like the Master of Environment, the Master of Environmental Science, also the Master of Conservation and Sustainability, the Master of Geosciences. We've got music programs, information technology, development studies in arts, humanities, and social sciences. So, just about anything, you should be able to study it with us at the University of Melbourne. You can check out courses in more detail at study.unimelb.edu.au, and you can do a simple search for some of those areas that you're interested in. So, Melbourne, we have a truly global program. We're a little bit different from other universities in Australia in that what we do is a little bit more like what you'd be familiar with in the United States, but also with a touch of what you would see in the United Kingdom. So, essentially, for most of you, you would be looking at postgraduate study, but most of our postgraduate programs are really about taking your studies to that next level. So if you come from a science, technology, engineering, or mathematics background, you would be studying that next deeper level to be able to take your expertise further. If you were studying something like STEM or another area and you wanted to switch and do something like development studies or international relations or business, you are also able to do that with a 2 years master's program. So essentially, what you can find is that we try to challenge our students to be interdisciplinary, to be able to try things in other faculties. You will be taught by people from other faculties, even within your own degree. So, say, for example, you are doing a Master of Computer Science. You will actually learn from academics in computer science, in engineering, and from the business school. And this is because these are all essential thinkers and essential skills to have when you go out into the workplace after you do that particular course. So I'm going to stop and tell you a little bit of a story now. So the photo you can see on your screens right now is of a little baby. Now, 2,600 children under the age of 5 die before every week due to pneumonia. Now, that shocks a lot of people because often when we think of pneumonia, we think of frail or the elderly. But the frontline treatment for pneumonia is actually medical grade oxygen. It's not just antibiotics like a lot of people think. So, in fact, if you've got a child or a baby under the age of 5, they're going to be very vulnerable to infection from pneumonia. So, when you're living in a lower resource country, it's not always easy to get access to electricity that delivers life-saving medical grade oxygen. Sometimes you may have access to that electricity, but it can get interrupted. So in some countries, there may be electrical blackouts at particular times. There may be connectivity issues. But this was a reason why life-saving treatment couldn't be delivered to children and babies. So researchers at the University of Melbourne felt this isn't good enough. This isn't actually a problem that really affects people in Australia, but we felt that this wasn't good enough. So who do you think might be involved in trying to come up with a solution for being able to provide this life-saving treatment? Perhaps doctors, frontline primary healthcare practitioners, maybe medical researchers. Maybe we might even need engineers to be able to help engineer and design the actual invention. What about a physicist? So this project is called Frio 2. And a physicist joined with doctors. That's how he heard about the actual problem. He joined with medical researchers. He also worked with people in health policy and public promotion to make sure that the solution they came up with would be accepted in communities, that people would feel comfortable using the technology or the device. And essentially, they used simple physics to draw water from a river or a well and they designed a little box that could actually be used to generate the electricity and then deliver the life-saving treatment. This particular project won the Eureka Prize in Australia. That's the #1 scientific prize in Australia. And when I spoke to the lead researcher, he said, well, I'm really honored to win the Eureka Prize, but the biggest prize is that I saved 26 babies' lives in Uganda last month. Why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because I feel that it exemplifies the University of Melbourne, who we are, what we're about, the kind of education that you can expect. You saw the rankings. You saw what a wonderful city Melbourne is. You saw what a beautiful campus it is. But it's the people that teach you, that mentor you, that make it really special. So Professor Roger Rasool, who actually led this project, he actually teaches first-year students in undergraduate programs. He teaches master's students, as well as students who are doing their PhDs and masters by research programs. We have world-leading researchers who are passionate about what they do, but they're still teaching our students and mentoring and guiding them at all levels of education. I also tell you this story because it's a story about interdisciplinary. We didn't just approach this problem from one angle. We used physicists, people from the engineering school, people from the school of the Faculty of Arts, Graduate School of Humanities and Social Sciences. We had people from the School of Design, all coming together to work collaboratively and put their different lens on the problem, because we know that in different disciplines you think and you approach a problem in a different way. I tell you this story also because it shows how globally focused we are. We're a little country of about 24 or 25 million people, but we've had to innovate. We've had to work together. But now we think big and we think globally. So I feel that that's a good story to give you a flavor about the University of Melbourne. This beautiful picture on your screens is the Great Barrier Reef. It is one of the world's 7 natural wonders, and it's off the Australian coast in Queensland. It's actually dying at the moment, which is really sad due to coral bleaching, and that's actually from rising sea temperatures. However, Professor Madeline Van Oppen, she's actually bioengineered new heat-resistant coral to introduce back into the biodiversity that can withstand climate change with temperatures in the sea level rising. So she's regenerating that ecosystem. She also teaches students in bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs, and she's working with experts from all around the world. She's also working with people from other disciplines outside marine biology and ecology. She's also working with people in international relations and politics to help lobby for that change, to help educate people about better practices for the environment. So this is about collaboration and another good example of our big thinking. And students also have these opportunities to not only learn from these kinds of staff, but to help work on their projects as well. And this also takes me to, no matter what sort of course you're doing, whether it's a PhD program or a master's by coursework, what we are trying to do is prepare you for careers of the future. This is pretty much for next year. It's already come, and it's why we started changing our curriculum 12 years ago now, and we're moving forward with this. By 2030, every job will change. There will be that old saying of there's jobs that don't exist yet. If you think about it, 10 years ago, there weren't app developers, or there were only the early starts of app development as an industry. So now we're trying to embed skills that are going to make you more flexible, that are going to be needed in the jobs market as you move forward. So within your classes, you are going to be thinking about things in a cross-cultural sense. You're going to be in classes with students who are the brightest and best from all over the world. Imagine doing media and communications in Australia with students sitting in your classes that have completely different experiences of cultural flows and media. For example, you could be in a classroom with a student from China who has experience with state controlled media, which is really different from what we're used to in Colombia and Australia. You'll be in classes with students who could come from countries in Europe or in Southeast Asia that may have used media in ways for activism. So imagine the robust and exciting discussion that you can have, but it also gives you better understanding of the way that your discipline works in different countries and the different opportunities that we have there. Your classes are also going to be very collaborative. And that's also from the fact, again, your teachers will come from different schools to teach you. Novel and adaptive thinking. We're going to challenge you to solve problems in classes, to critique the thinking. The way that you study and learn, we're going to be making sure that you build the kinds of skills, not just the theory and not just the work skills for your particular program, but the ones that are going to make you flexible and employable moving forward. So, what is it like to study at Melbourne? Well, you've got so many options to be able to explore that passion. What do you want to do? Where do you want your career to take you? So, we have passionate, highly engaged students and teachers. So, come here and whatever makes you curious, whatever you want to solve, there's lots of opportunities for you to do that there. You can make an impact. So I think for me, I'm a University of Melbourne graduate. I loved the grounds. I thought we had wonderful resources. My teachers were incredible. But the thing for me that stood out was the other people in the classroom. I was in a course at Fine Arts and Music that only 10 of us got into. And I was just as motivated by the people in my class. They challenged me. I learnt things from them. They learnt things from me. And we were all people that wanted to have big careers, all people that wanted to make the most of our opportunities. So, this is something that you can do. The university gives you so many opportunities for internships, um, research projects, to go be mentored by industry, to work on campus, to be a student ambassador. Make the most of it. And we find that that's what students that come to the University of Melbourne do. They make the most of the opportunities that they're given. They go to the special career talks. They sign up to volunteer. They sign up to have an industry mentor. They enroll in the subjects that they actually get a chance to do internships. They make the most of it. We're going to make you, as I said with the last slide, develop those critical problem solving skills and communication skills. We're going to get you ready for a shifting job environment. And you're going to have the chance to work globally. And I know that when I met our wonderful students who'd returned home to Colombia, they were really gaining a reputation for bringing something different to their industries, that they were quite innovative, that they were flexible, they were agile, they were able to move and shift and react when needed. And our students really do, the further the education you do, the further your potential earning power actually is. So these are some of the Melbourne people that I talked to you about. So this is Julia Gillard. She was Australia's first female prime minister, and she did arts law. And she again also exemplifies that make the most of your opportunities. When she was at the university, she took part in the student union. So she took part in providing a voice to the students. She took on internships. She took on all of the opportunities that mattered to help get the most. This is a picture of Novak Djokovic. #1 tennis player in the world, with the #1 tennis player in the world for the wheelchair tennis, Dylan Alcott. Dylan Alcott did his MBA. He's miles ahead of everyone else in the tennis rankings, but he's also one of our top TV sporting commentary personalities and a top businessman in Australia. This is Peter Doherty. Peter Doherty is one of our Nobel Prize winners. We have the most Nobel Prize winners out of all Australian universities, and you will actually see him on campus wandering around. He has his research institute there. He's an immunologist, and he regularly chats to our students, and he regularly still goes into the classroom. This is Kathy Freeman, gold medalist, and we have an elite sports program. So if you are representing Colombia at state or at national level, we can look after you in our elite sports program. So she is one of the most inspiring Australian Indigenous women and leaders in Australia, and she really was the face of the Sydney 2000 Olympics. But I just also wanted to point out to you our elite sports program. This is Waleed Ali with our Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Waleed Ali is one of the most prominent social commentators in Australia, one of the top journalists. And again, he made the most of those opportunities for global field project type subjects. So you can come to Australia and do subjects where you go on field trips to China, which is an important trade partner for so many of us. This is Tilman Ruff. He's just won the Nobel Peace Prize in the last 2 years. Also, still at the university, will be seen on campus. So these are the kinds of people that come and study at the University of Melbourne. They aim high, but they're passionate about what they do and they want to make impact. So how do you apply? Well, select the right course for you. So think about where you want to be headed with your career. Maybe check out the handbook at handbook.unimelb.edu.au. Type in the course that you're interested in, and you can start reading about the different subjects that are offered. And my biggest tip to you is if you get excited about the subjects when you read them, it's a good course for you. Next step is to make sure you meet the admissions requirements. So even if you have a fantastic GPA or WAM, if you don't have the right course requirements or subject requirements, we can't let you in. So just make sure that you have all of that correct. And then you'll need to submit your completed application with the relevant documents. There's 2 ways to apply. One, you can apply to us direct via our website. If you need any help, there's plenty of help on hand, either through chat, through calling. You can email us. There's lots of different ways that you can get help. Our triage team, you can't get it wrong. If there's any of your application that you haven't included, or if you've missed anything, they'll get straight back to you and let you know if there's anything missing or that you need to redo. Or if you feel that things are a little bit tricky and you want to talk to someone in person, you can meet through one of our partner education agents. But step 4, ask for help. We absolutely love to help you at any point. That's what we're there for. Next things to do, just in a little more detail, what you'll need, because I will focus on graduate given what our webinar is today, what we will need is a recognized bachelor's degree or master's degree with the required results. So every course will have that clearly outlined, exactly what they need. We'll also need you to do your English proficiency test, unless, of course, if you've studied a course that is taught and assessed in English, you won't need to provide IELTS or TOEFL or anything like that. So that's the one exception. So some of you may have studied somewhere else first, maybe in the UK, Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand. If you are fully taught or assessed in English, you won't need to provide that. One thing to check is the extra requirements. So some courses such as the MBA, So the Master of Business Administration, or some of the courses like the Master of Management, or Music, or Visual Arts, or some of the law programs may require you to fill in a personal statement. They may require you to do an audition. Now, for some of the auditions for music or drama, you can actually do that online or through video, so you won't be disadvantaged. You may have to submit a portfolio in the case of architecture, or in the case of painting or illustration. For business, you may actually have to sit a GMAT or a GRE test, and that's just to see whether you are the right and ready and set up for success for a business course. So they're the things you need to check. Check that you do have the right marks, that you've done the right course, whether you need to do English proficiency tests. Most people do have to, so don't worry about that. And then check the extra requirements. So there are 2 intakes generally, but I will point out that some courses only have intakes once a year, but that will be all outlined when you read about the individual course at study.unimelb.edu.au. But generally, most courses you can start in February or March. So you'll do your orientation in February, you'll start classes in March, or in July and August. So you do your orientation in July and you'd start in August. Postgraduate research has more regular intakes throughout the year, but the things to remember mainly for coursework is that the application deadlines to start in February, March, it will be the 30th of October. So the end of this month to start next February or March. And by 30th of May 2020, if you want to start in July and August 2020. So we do really encourage you to apply as early as possible, so that it allows a little bit of time for you to get your visa and start planning to travel and live in Australia. So in terms though, with those deadlines of the 30th of October, a lot of the faculties are a bit flexible and they'll let you apply a little bit later into November, but just check with the faculty first. Most will allow you to do that, but I highly recommend that the quicker you get your application in, it will just relax that process of getting your visa, and just making your preparations for packing and finding somewhere to live. So you can expect to get 2 kinds of offer letters. So you can apply to the University of Melbourne even if you haven't got your final grades. So if you're still completing your bachelor's degree, we can actually give you a conditional offer, based on your predictive or your results so far. So essentially, you'd get a letter and we'd look at your results and we'd see if you're on track to meeting requirements. And your letter would be conditional that you complete your course and you maintain getting the results that we're expecting. You can also get an unconditional offer. So this would be where you apply to us, you have your final results, and there's no conditions to meet. You're just ready to go, ready to accept your offer, enroll, and get your confirmation of enrollment. So a big question we got all of the time is, do you have any scholarships? And yes, we do. We've got a range of scholarships. Now, I will say too that some of the brightest students in the world forgo scholarships to study with us. But we find that a lot of our students that do come through Corfutro do end up being successful in getting other scholarships because they're already quite exceptional students. So we actually have scholarships for academic merit, and we have scholarships for all sorts of other things. There is actually a scholarships database where you can type in some conditions and you get a full list of scholarships that you can apply for. It's scholarships.unimelb.edu.au. That's scholarships.edu.au. Now, I'll make sure to send through those links for everyone, any of the links that I've mentioned today. So the actual academic scholarships, we will assess you for automatically. You don't need to do anything. Just by applying, we will look at your results and see if you are eligible. But the other ones could be for accommodation. They could be from someone who once came to us from Colombia and studied, and they wanted to make sure that another student had a chance. They could be from companies that want to support students doing particular engineering or business or arts or science or just about anything. So there are so many different scholarships, and all you really need to do is go to scholarships.unimelb.edu.au and put in some selection criteria such as I'm an international student, I'm starting a new course, and which area you're going to study in, and you'll see a long list of additional scholarships that you can apply for. And I highly suggest that you do this. The other thing to let you know is we also have scholarships for once you are studying with us. So when you come in and you start studying, and if you do really, really well, we have a generous range of scholarships that we award at the end of the semester for students who've performed really well. So there's prizes and there's scholarships. So make sure to come in and work hard. And you are eligible to hold multiple scholarships at once. So just because you get one scholarship doesn't mean that you can't have a number of other scholarships. So another question that I get quite often is, do you have any financial aid? In terms of financial aid, that's not something that we really do in Australia. So universities don't provide that role in Australia, but what we do is we do offer the scholarships that you can apply for and will be assessed for, but financial aid is not something that is Australian. And that's why I've got some pictures of American dollars there. And I just wanted to say to you a very big thank you. And I'm going to hand back and I can take some questions now. Thank you so much. Gracias.
Zoe, thank you so much. I think that all the information was very clear and very inspiring too. We have some questions. I'm going to read them. So Esteban is asking about the possibilities on our job opportunities in general about sports, programs that are related in sports.
So the University of Melbourne is not a university that has specialized programs called Master of Sports Management or anything like that. What you would do is you would go into our Melbourne Business School and you would actually choose business subjects. So we don't have a specialized sports program. But essentially at the heart of it, you could actually, there's lots of research happening in that space in the Melbourne Business School. So you could go into a particular business program and you could actually choose your subjects wisely and at the advice of the actual course planning and advice staff within the School of Business. And you could actually link back your studies as much as you wanted to by using, I guess, case studies and focuses on sport. You would be able to do capstone subjects and internships in professional sporting organizations. But what you couldn't do is study an actual course that was titled something like sports management. It would be something broader that you could then actually choose the relevant courses as advised within it by our course planners. But there's definitely those opportunities, as I said, to do internships within professional sporting bodies.
Okay,
so I hope that helps. But
yeah, I think so. Thank you. The next question is from Diego. He's interested in a specific program, but he would like to know if all the entry or admission requirements that you mentioned apply the same to every program.
Oh, hi, Diego. No, absolutely not. So that's what's really, really important. The entry to each of our programs is very specific to what we need the student to have to make sure that they're set up for success in that course. So when you go to study.unimelb.edu.au and you click on a particular course, so let's just say Master of Development Studies, it will clearly tell you exactly the requirements. So it might say that it needs you to have a GPA of equivalent of 65%, and it needs you to have a relevant degree, or you just might need any degree. So every single course will tell you specifically the kind of qualification or course they need you to have studied, the marks they need you to get, and if there are any additional requirements. So many of our courses are purely looking at your academic results within your bachelor's degree for graduate programs, but some, like law, like medicine, and many of the business programs and the music programs require you to do other things beyond just your marks. So just check the individual course and it will be clearly outlined what to do. If you get stuck at all, Diego, and anyone else out there, because I think a lot of people will have that question, you can contact us at the university and we can talk you through it and confirm exactly what we need for your course. So you never have to double guess. We're always here to help.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is from Diana. She wants to know what is the weather like in winter?
Okay, Diana, that's a great question. So Melbourne has 4 seasons. So winter is very different from a winter in Europe. It's probably on average anywhere from 14 degrees Celsius and can get right up to 18 degrees Celsius. We don't snow. We get a little bit of snow on our you'll laugh at them because they're like hills compared to the Andes. We get a little bit of snow in winter, but it's about 2.5 hours away from the campus in the Victorian Alps. So, but no snow. Yeah, 14 to 18 degrees. Sometimes it can get a little bit colder, but you will need to pack jackets and warm clothes. I think that's cold. So people from colder countries would definitely not think that that's cold.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's spring. And in spring, it's 22 degrees today. And on the weekend, it's going to be 26 degrees. So spring gets really lovely and it really starts warming up.
Okay, so it seems like pretty much like Bogota. Actually, today in this moment, we have 12 Celsius grades.
Yeah, yes.
So
Yeah.
12 is pretty much like Bogota. Okay, so the next question is from Diego again, I think. Yeah. Sorry, for Andres. But I think that this question is more for me than for you. Because he wants to know what are the steps in order to access to the scholarship from Colfuturo. So for Andres, the first step is that you have to apply to the loan scholarship between the beginning of January of each year until the last day of February. Then when you apply, if you are selected by us and you decide to go to the University of Melbourne, we are going to send your information to the university, and depending on whether your program is by research or by coursework, you are going to have the discount that the agreement states. So the first step is to apply to Colfuturo, and of course, applying with a program from the University of Melbourne. I think that is all. Of course, at the same time, you have to be aware of the requirements that the university has. So the specific requirements of them.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Diego is asking, what is the probability after finish the master to get a job in Australia? I think that is a very common question from us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I might just actually step back because Diego has brought up a really good topic in general, and that's about jobs when you're in Australia. So just even while you're studying, it's really important to point out to everyone out there that students are allowed to study up to 40 hours, work up to 40 hours per fortnight. We wouldn't actually recommend you work any more than that while you're studying. So you're free to apply for any of the jobs. So you can either use what you've done in your undergraduate program or apply for jobs on campus, but you can actually work and earn money while you study in Australia. Post-studying, once you're successful and completing your degree, you actually anyone that studies for at least 2 years in Australia is eligible for a post-study visa for 2 years. It's a great opportunity to practice what you've been learning in an Australian context because it's always good to have that international experience. And I'm going to be really honest, getting that job, it's up to you. We're going to give you the tools. We're going to give you lots of support, but it's just like anything else. So the job rate and the employment rate is really good in Australia in general. We've got low unemployment for a start. So that makes your job prospects strong. Number two, it will depend upon what you're trying to do. So, for example, if you did fine arts in acting, that's a difficult field to find a job, no matter where you're from, whether you're an international student staying or you've lived in Australia your whole life. It's just one of those careers that is very difficult to get work. But on top of that, though, you've got lots of opportunities. There are a lot of employers who will see it as an advantage to be from another country. So, as a Spanish speaker, that's invaluable in a healthcare setting. We have large Spanish-speaking diasporic communities in Australia, so that's welcome to be able to have staff who are able to communicate and speak with them. The consulting companies, banking, finance, these are all areas where having access and being able to support growth into the Latin American markets are highly prized. So that's where it can be seen as a big advantage. The other thing is that we, throughout your studies and post your studies, we provide employment and career support through our student success team. So you can go to one-on-one sessions where we support you with your resume. You can come and do just talk about your career. We can chat with you about channels to find appropriate jobs. We also do things like interview technique workshops. Some of the faculties have programs called Job Ready, where they're literally about your personal brand and selling yourselves and getting yourself out there. We've got industry events where we actually only ask employers to come if they have jobs for our students who are graduating. So they're not just there to talk at a table, they're only allowed to come if they have jobs for our students. So we do everything that we can to help you in that process. And you can access that support once you graduate as well, because we don't just kind of leave you when you finish. But ultimately, you have a great chance because we've got strong networks, low unemployment in Australia. But at the same time, it's no different from any other job market in that if you put everything into what you're studying and take the opportunities so that you've got a great CV, that you've volunteered, you've started building your career, you've started working, then there's still all of those same things about getting a job apply you have to put into. So yeah, long answer, I know, but there's a little bit to it.
Really useful. Thank you so much.
No problem.
The next question is from Clayder. He is a civil engineering, and he would like to know if the university has something like a advising program for in order to help them or us to choose a really accurate program. I mean, he's a civil engineering, but he doesn't know which program will be the best for him. So does the university have like an advising program office or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it can be confusing because there's lots of different courses that you can find the right fit that depend upon what you want to do, where you're headed and your interests. So there is actually experts within the Melbourne School of Engineering that we can connect you with, that they can talk in great detail with you at subject level, at graduate outcome level. But there's also more broadly for everyone out there, there's Stop One, and the people in Stop One, the team there, literally can do course planning and advice and chat you through to find the right fit. For example, in engineering, there are lots of opportunities. If you're already qualified as an engineer, there are further programs in project management, in terms of engineering management and business. There are even ways that you can switch to another area of engineering if you were thinking, I'd actually like to do mechatronics now, or energy systems, because there's lots of job opportunities there. So it's absolutely worth talking to our course planning and advice teams within the faculties and Stop One, and we will make sure that you get all of these links.
Okay, thank you so much. The next question is from Santiago. He wants to know if the university requires job experience in order to be accepted or admitted to a master's degree.
Hi, Santiago. It depends upon the course. So this one is where we need to go back to checking really carefully the requirements. The majority of courses don't. But some of them will actually look at your experience. So actually, none of the courses do, but some courses it can help you. So, for example, when you're applying to the executive MBA, for example, that particular program is actually looking for people that are quite well advanced in their career. So they will be looking at your work experience and your job, and a combination of academic results as well as where you've actually headed with your career. Other courses, they're literally going to just look at your academic results, and some will look at both. So check those requirements carefully.
Okay. Angie has a specific question. She already has an offer.
Congratulations.
But she would like to know the contact of the person in charge of the law faculty, because she has a specific question. So how she can obtain that information?
Yeah, excellent. So his name is Paul Pasniak, and I will send it through to Angela, and we'll get that email out to you. Like maybe through chat right now, I could probably do that. If you could leave your contact details, I will give you the email directly. Paul is fabulous, and he'll be really happy to have a chat.
Yeah. So Angie, if you want, you can write your email there in the chat or contact me, and I will pass the information.
Yeah. I'll try to put in the chat right now.
Okay. Okay, so I think that those were all the questions so far. I know that maybe our students, they have more questions related to scholarships, but I know that you already informed that, and the webpage of the university offers all the information. So before finishing, would you like to say some goodbye words on advice?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you so much for taking the time after you've had probably a long day at work, to log in or study, and to hear a bit more about and experience just a little taste of the University of Melbourne. I am so proud to work here. I absolutely love it, and I can just say it's an inspiring, exciting place, but we're here to help anything that you need. And we love our students from Colombia. They're an important part of our campus life, and they're so talented. So hope to see you on campus, and please do reach out. I'm about to type into the chat some of those links that I shared earlier, so you can find out more about the courses. So I'm just putting that in the chat right now for everyone. But thank you. Muchas gracias. Adios, mi amigos.
So thank you so much. And to everyone that is online, please remember that I will send the video of this session because it was being recorded. So the video and the links that Zoe is sharing, and that's all. If you have any question or additional information that you want to know, please refer to the website or try to answer with us at Colfuturo. So thank you so much to everyone and have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.